How old are you, by the way?
I'm 21.
21. What do you think about this? Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. We're talking about children here, not adults.
Yeah.
Children. What's going
on?
on?
In my opinion, you guys are totally correct. Children can't consent to puberty blockers. But, of course, it's, the family and, of course, the laws are all changing and revolving. But there's a lot of, in my opinion, I know this is what you guys are focused on, but there's a lot of bigger issues that we should be talking about. But yes, in this regard, I feel like children can't consent to puberty blockers, yes.
Yeah.
But
why do you think it's, you're talking about bigger issues, you're talking about just not related to this?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll focus on this for today.
On this. Yeah, right.
Okay.
We're focused on this, of course. But yeah, just to say that in a general.
Why do you think it's not that big of an issue, I guess I would ask you?
I mean, it's not that big of an issue to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's within whoever their family and what their parents say or whatever. I mean, of course, in my humble opinion, in my only opinion, yes, I do agree with you guys.
That's fair.
But again, people have free will. There's their families, and of course, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's the bigger goal for you guys? Like, what do you guys want? Like a law to
100%.
Yeah, just a law to. I mean, yeah, I see that, but
to protect children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Similar to how parents aren't allowed to. They're not allowed to feed their kids alcohol, cigarettes.
Right, exactly.
Allow them to watch pornography. They're
Same
not
thing.
allowed to.
But you can get
abuse
guns
their child.
in other countries at 18. I mean, in other states at 18 and stuff like that. So that's also something to talk about. But yes.
Children.
Yeah.
We're talking about an experiment on kids that's never been done
Yeah.
in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Where we're stopping the physical development of children.
Right.
So some people kind of take this approach,
Sorry.
well, that's their choice and their parents are fine with it, that's their thing. But parents don't have the right to abuse their children.
Right.
I wouldn't take a 10-year-old.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's abuse
How come?
to an extent, because gender dysphoria is a real thing and it's been studied for quite some time.
That's
and if
right.
you feel how you feel, you can't change that. And if somebody says that they feel that way, they feel that way.
So,
yes, again, I agree with you guys. Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Like, no, they're children, of course. But I agree with you guys that there should be a law preventing that. But I don't think that that's the worst problem in the world to think about right now. And of course, rates of detransitioning are high and everything like that. But are coming to be higher, and of course social media plays on a part. I'm sure we agree on a lot of those type of things.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree with you on this, but is it bigger overall picture? I don't think it's that huge of a problem.
Okay. Well, we can talk about the numbers of increases of this of gender dysphoria, but I actually want to go back to what she was saying about the gender dysphoria, talking about how it's obviously a real thing.
Right.
And children experience it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a camp counselor. I'm a camp counselor too. We have trans children that have actually already been on puberty blockers. But that's none of my business, right? So that's none of my business. So I don't really ask about it. But.
So you mentioned the studies.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of studies. You're
Right.
absolutely right. There were 12 major academic studies done before we started giving kids puberty blockers.
Mm-hmm.
Back when this affected a much lower percentage of the population. And more than 80% of the time, these kids with gender dysphoria simply grew out of it when they went through puberty. So puberty itself is the cure for gender dysphoria in almost all these cases. And a majority of the children actually grew up to be gay.
Okay.
So what this is doing is taking kids when they're 10, 11 years old, just hitting puberty, blocking their physical development with these drugs that have never been approved for this purpose. These drugs were approved to treat prostate cancer, endometriosis in women, same drug given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them. To this day, it's still being done.
Mm.
But we're giving these experimentally to kids when we know from all the academic studies that if we just let them go through puberty, this is almost always a phase. So, I don't know, it seems pretty insane to me that for the first time in human history, we're stopping the physical development of children, giving them the opposite sex hormones, and even cutting off their body parts. I do consider that to be child abuse, 100%.
So what do you think about that take?
I see, yeah, and that take, yeah, I understand how that, you can consider that child abuse. But yeah, I mean, really in regards...
What did you think about what he said right there when it comes to people seeing their gender dysphoria, children seeing their gender dysphoria desist after puberty? Did you know about that before?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, but
80% roughly.
But it makes sense. Like, yeah, it would make sense that would happen. But again, to differentiate that sexual attraction and how you identify and how you give off your gender are two separately completely different things.
Yeah, it is.
But I do understand
orientation,
where he's coming
Totally.
from, and that it would be like sexual orientation. I was always a tomboy, like,
For sure.
you know, for the most part, I do identify as gay. So it's just like I was always a tomboy, but no, I never felt like I wanted to be a boy. Like
Right,
I'm
right. And
totally
a lot of women-
I'm
a
totally
lot of women
comfortable
are in
being
that
with a
same-
girl. I don't want to be a boy, but you
Right.
know, like of course, I have masculine energy about me, and I'm fine with that. But no,
Yeah,
But again, regarding this, like, yeah, I agree with you guys.
But the other thing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
those studies too, so if I look at the most recent one, the biggest one,
Mm-hmm.
followed 139 boys from the age of 5 all the way into their 20s. 87.8% of them grew out of it, but 63.6% grew up to be gay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is harming kids who grow up to be gay, destroying any chance of them of having an intimate relationship. The president of WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, they write the standards of care. He admits that none of the boys who started on puberty blockers at the beginning of puberty, it's called Tanner stage 2, none of them as adults have been able to have any sexual function. They've never had an orgasm. So this whole thing is the Wild West of medicine. We have all these countries in Europe who are doing away with this. Just yesterday, actually, 19 experts wrote a letter to the Endocrine Society here in the States, debunking what the president of the Endocrine Society is saying,
Yeah.
because they've done systematic reviews of all the evidence and found there is no evidence to support this. It's not reducing suicidality. It's not improving these kids' mental health outcomes. So if it's not doing any of that, what are we doing trying
Right.
to change the bodies of
No,
these
and
children?
you're. I definitely agree. That's definitely interesting, and you guys are definitely educating me on certain things. I
course.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know.
And I
but
appreciate you giving your perspective and
Right.
point of view, kind of how you were growing up. I mean, you mentioned
yeah,
you
I was
said
like,
probably
I was like,
gay.
it's
Are you gay?
normal. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing about it. I don't close myself off to anything for the most part. I've only pursued women, but I'm not like
Okay, but
closed off. But,
a big factor there is a lot of these kids a majority of these kids are
Yeah.
growing up to be gay,
Yeah.
and their parents are allowing them to throw away adult sexual function under the age of 18. And remember, we're talking about children here,
Children,
right? So
right.
you,
You're
we don't
absolutely
have a
right.
problem with what
You're
adults
right.
are doing. We would probably criticize maybe some of the pathways that they're going when it comes to being rushed into getting surgeries and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's a different conversation. We're talking about protecting children. So when we
Right.
talk about creating laws to say that children
So
cannot consent to
right.
this,
They
is
can't
that
consent to tattoos. They can't consent to. Obviously, they shouldn't be able to consent to stuff like that. It makes sense.
For
Like,
sure. So is that, do you think that's a pretty reasonable position? Would
I
you
think
say?
I think it's a 100% reasonable position. But again, there's definitely bigger issues. That's how I feel. But that's how I feel.
Bigger issue. That's fine. That's fine. Well, Chris, did you want to add anything else, or we want to move on to the next
No,
person?
I really appreciate you having the.
Of course, and
nice
I thank you
conversation.
guys for having an open conversation with me too,
You're
knowing
so
that
sweet.
I'm part of. I try to be. I try to be.
You're there's something about you. You're very welcoming of a conversation. So
Thank you, I
great
appreciate
job.
it.
I mean,
and of course, I love to hear the other side. Like I love to. Of course, I have my own ignorances, but I like to educate myself on what your guys' perception is of things. Of course,
Yeah,
and
great
it
job.
makes and I understand it. Like and I agree for the most part. Yeah. So.
and then
Yeah,
if you,
this is all based on evidence and science
Right,
and love and
yeah,
compassion.
exactly.
No one hates any of these
Yeah,
kids.
right.
And the
And that's the
agenda
thing,
that's
you
always
take-
pushed by the left is that this is about hate. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. You take something like this. Of course, you know, people are gonna think, oh, you have to be homophobic or whatever, like, or you're transphobic but it's children. You know, I understand it. Like,
Sure.
at some point, you're not transphobic. You're just trying to be smart. Then it's common sense. I feel like.
They're
But,
just little kids.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really-
And
really-
it shouldn't even be political. It's
It's not.
children.
for sure,
It shouldn't be
for sure, you're
political.
spot on.
Yeah,
You're
like-
spot on.
Politicians have
but
made
the
it that way.
politicians make it that way,
That's
right?
right.